Starting from the ground up, you have to decide what base you want to go with when it comes to Greymon. Do you want to go an all-black base? If so, you always want to go with the starter deck Coromon that gives that 1000 DP when attack target switched. You can always go with the high DP boosting Coromon from Bt9 that gives Agumons and Greymons plus 1000 DP, which is fantastic for the raid package for WarGreymon. If you're running more X Antibody archetype and you need to get that X Antibody Evo or Omni to hand, running the Draw Coromon from Bt5 is textbook, of course. And lastly, you have the Bt14 Coromon that when security is removed, when you attack, you trigger draw 1. All of these are very good Coromons that you can utilize for whatever strategy you want for the Greymon build. So before you decide on what type of deck you want to go with, these are going to be your staples of understanding where the line's going to start. Generically, these two are the main Coromons you tend to go with. If you're going, as mentioned, Raid WarGreymon, having that build up, stack, and back, you usually get all the pieces you need to hand before you promote anyways. So you would push out, have that extra 1000 DP on your stack, and then OTK. He's very useful for more BT1 WarGreymon or things that need a little extra boost to make sure you guarantee that OTK, or to always have a strong, after effect WarGreymon if you don't OTK. And this Coromon, as mentioned, is just great for getting draw power to hand. It's usually the main textbook Coromon you want to go with, but there are value in using this Coromon as well. Branching up, if you do go Redline Greymon, you have your choices ideally here with your textbook Bt12 Agumon. It evolves for 0 from Coromon, so it can evolve from any of these, even though it can evolve from 1 on black. On play, you reveal the top 4 cards of your deck. You can add 1 Digimon card with Greymon or Omnimon in its name and 1 Tamer card with Kamiya in its name. And you bottom deck the rest. So you reveal 4, you can get your Tamer and your Greymon or Omnimon. It's the textbook best searcher in the game for the Greymon archetype. And it's inheritable, gives your Greymons and Omnimons plus 1000 DP on all turns. You of course have the Bt14 Agumon that evolves for 0 from Coromon as well. Start your main phase. If you have a tie in play, you can evolve into a Greymon level 4 from your hand without paying the cost, so he's fantastic with warping this Agumon up into Bt14 WarGreymon as well, but also ideally for going into Bt5 Greymon for free and gaining back a memory. It's inheritable, gives Greymons and Omnimons plus 2000 DP on your turn, so it's just great for even higher numbers. And as mentioned, that boost does give your Bt14 WarGreymon that extra oomph of 14k, and if it's paired with this Coromon, it'll be 15k. Just a textbook Agumon to use. You do have Bt5 Agumon, which on play reveals 3. You can add 1 card with Greymon and 1 card with Omnimon in its name. So if you want to cut out certain Agumons, this is still a good searcher to have, especially for certain OTK builds that want to utilize and prioritize getting that Omnimon to hand. And lastly, you have the utility piece Agumon X Antibody from Bt9. He evolves for 0 on top of any of your Agumons. And on play or when digivolving on top, you get the reveal 3. You can reveal Greymon or Omnimon in name and an X Antibody option card. If you reveal those, you can add the X Antibody option and a Greymon or Omnimon in name. The textbook play is always hard playing any of your Agumon, ideally this one, or sometimes this one. Revealing, getting cards to hand, and then for free evolving on top, getting this Agumon, draw from that, and then revealing 3 more and getting more utility combo pieces to hand. If you go black base and branch up here, your main black Agumons you want to utilize are the starter deck Agumon that evolves for 0 from your Coromon, of course. Start main phase, if your opponent has a Digimon, you gain 1 memory, which is great for advantage. And all turns, once per turn, when attack target switched, you gain 1 memory. So whenever an attack target's turned back to your blocker Greymon, or if you raid, you can gain that 1 memory with your Bt12 WarGreymon if you play that in the black archetype. Your Bt8 Agumon's a fantastic searcher for the black archetype searcher because you don't really run Omnimons too much, maybe Omnimon X on average, so you don't have to worry about searching for those, but these do guarantee revealing top 4 cards of your deck and adding a Greymon in name and 1 card with Dragonkin in its traits. All your level 6s in the Greymon archetype outside of Shine Gray are Dragonkins, so you can make sure you get plus advantage of getting 2 cards for sure with this Agumon. You do run, of course, the Bt12 Agumon, as mentioned prior. It's the best searcher in the Greymon archetype of getting your ties and your Greymons or Omnimons in name and giving that 1000 DP boost on all turns to your Greymons and Omnimons. And lastly, the Agumon X from Bt11. It evolves for 0 on top of your Agumons. On play and when digivolving, you reveal the top 3 cards of your deck. You would add 1 card with Greymon or the X Antibody in its name to your hand, so you can get the option from that as well. And you can add 1 black Tamer. So if you're playing black base, you're going to be running mostly all black Tamers, so that's value right there. And it's all turns. Gives your Greymons or Omnimons a name. If they would be deleted, return a hand or deck by an effect. You can return your X Antibody option card to the bottom of your deck to prevent that from leaving play. And actually, lastly, is this Agumon from Bt14 as mentioned, as it can evolve for 0 from Coromon, meaning it can evolve from this black Coromon. You can evolve into this and stay with its boost of giving 2000 DP and utilizing its Tamer effect of having a tie and evolving into a Greymon for free, as long as that Tamer is in play. Branching up to your level 4 in red base Greymon, you of course have your starter deck Greymon that gives that security attack +1. It's perfect for the OTK styles. It is textbook, evolves for 2 from your red, and you can of course evolve for free if you evolve with the tie in play in this Agumon. This Greymon is perfect with the Bt14 Agumon because if it has Greymon in its evolution cards, you gain 1 memory. So if you have the tie and you have this Agumon in play, it's free, and then you suspend the tie to gain a memory. Once you evolve into this Greymon, his effect activates, it gains you a memory for having the Agumon underneath. So that's 2 free memory with this Greymon, and he gives 2000 DP to your Omnimons and Greymons on your turn. Powerhouse card. Of course, Bt12 Greymon, he evolves for 2 from Agumon in name. When Digivolving, if you don't have a Tamer with tie Kamiya in play, you can drop down this Greymon, drop down tie from this Greymon, and he gives your Greymons and Omnimons extra 1000 DP on all turns. You have the EX1 Greymon that evolves for 2 from a level 3. In red, when attacking, once per turn, you may play 1 tie Kamiya with a play cost of 3 or less from your hand without paying the memory cost. So it's inheritable. It's great for decks that run usually 4 Bt12 tie Kamiyas or Agumon or things like that have a lot of 3 cost ties. When it's evolved up into, say, Greymon X or Metal Greymon or even WarGreymon, dropping down that Bt12 tie that gives blocker for free. There's a lot of utility with this Greymon. The Bt14 Greymon that when attacking gives 2000 DP for the turn. Then if you have Tamer with tie in play, you gain 1 memory, and he gives 2000 DP to your Omnimons and Greymons. He's useful in a lot of Agumon strategies, but not necessarily for the main Greymon tribal, but you can test him out if you really want. You have Greymon X from Bt9. He evolves for 0 on top of any of your Greymons all turns. When Greymon or Omnimon in its name, this stack would be deleted, return a hand or deck by an effect. You can trash 2 of the same evolution level cards in its stack to prevent it from leaving play. And then you have Bt11 Greymon X Antibody that evolves for 0 from Greymon as well. Your turn has the effect when it would evolve into a Greymon in name, you can reduce the cost by 1 for each of that card's colors. So ideally when it evolves into Bt12 Metal Greymon, that would cost 3. It would only cost 1 with this Greymon X. Or if it went Bt8 Metal Greymon, it would cost 2 instead of 4. In all turns, if the stack that has Greymon or Omnimon in its name will be deleted, return a hand or deck by an effect, you can return the X Antibody option card to the bottom of your deck to prevent it from leaving play. Branching up from the black Agumon line, you do have your starter deck Greymon that evolves for 3 from Agumon in name, so it can evolve from a red Agumon if need be, but this Greymon's better in the black archetype. Security effect, if you hit this card and it comes out security, you can play an Agumon or tie Kamiya from your hand or trash without paying the cost, and it is innately a blocker. It has the all turns effect, just like the others in the starter deck, where all turns once per turn when attack target switched, you gain 1 memory, so it's good for raiding, then we're blocking as an inheritable. Of course, as mentioned before, the Bt12 Greymon, that if you don't have a tie, when you evolve into this Greymon, you can play your tie for free, and gives your Greymons and Omnimons 1000 DP, and of course it evolves from your Agumons in name. You have the Bt8 Greymon, that opponent's turn, if you have a red Digimon in play, while you have a red Digimon, this Digimon gains blocker, so what it's evolved up into. Usually you're going to have a red Digimon in play, or this itself will be a red Digimon as a Metal Greymon. So, unless you're the starter deck Metal Greymon, for example, but if you do have this inheritable, you are a blocker if you don't have the Bt12 tie in play. This is another Greymon that's usually utilized in black base. You do have the Alter S Greymon that gives reboot as an inheritable. This one doesn't see as much play in traditional Greymon tribal decks, but having that reboot is kind of nice, but you usually have reboot anyways from your level 6s, so it's not really necessary unless you wanted your Bt12 WarGreymon to always have reboot. That's a possibility. As mentioned, the Greymon X Antibody from Bt11 that reduces evolution cost when you evolve into your level 5 and protection from its inheritable by returning X Antibody to the bottom of the deck. And for niche play, you can also run the red Bt9 Greymon X that trash 2 evolution source to protect your Greymon and Omnimon. You want to run this very low in the black base because this Greymon can't evolve off of many of your level 3 black Agumons, but it can evolve for 0 off of your Greymons here. Branching up into your level 5 ultimates, in red base you have your Bt12 Metal Greymon, the best Metal Greymon honestly in the archetype. Evolves for 3 from a level 4 with Greymon in name, so it can evolve from your Greymon X's up into this for the cost of 3. It has Raid, meaning when you attack security you can redirect to your opponent's Digimon with the highest DP that's unsuspended. And when you do so, all turns, once per turn, when attack target switched, you may play one red or black red Tamer with a play cost of 4 or less from your hand, so you can drop your Yuyas from Bt11 or your ties from Bt1 or Bt12, any kind of tie honestly. That's red or black, and then your turn, it gives your Greymons and Omnimons that much needed piercing. So that's a textbook that you want to run in black and red base. You have Alterous mode, which evolves for 0 from Metal Greymon, that counts as Metal Greymon in name. With Digivolve, if you have a Tamer in play, you can delete one of your opponent's Digimon with 5,000 DP or less. In all turns, it has the Bt9 Greymon X effect. It also has the Bt9 Greymon X protection effect of if your Omnimon or Greymon were to be deleted or returned to hand or deck by an effect, you can trash 2 of the same level to prevent it from leaving play. You also have Bt8 Metal Greymon that when digivolving, you de-digivolve one of your opponent's Digimon. Then you delete one of your opponent's Digimon with 3,000 DP or less, so it's good against Armor Purge type of decks. It has the inheritable if it has Dragonkin or Machine as traits, so Dragonkin are most of your level 6s, of course. You can attack your opponent's unsuspended Digimon, so that's nasty for the mid-range control Black WarGreymon strategy. If you go red base Black WarGreymon, it does evolve for 4, unfortunately, but if you evolve from the Greymon X from Bt11, it would only cost 2 instead of that 4, and offense trainings also mitigate that evolution cost. You could also run Bt14 Metal Greymon Ace. It evolves for 3 from a Greymon in name level 4. Hand Blast counter, when your opponent attacks, you blast evolve, and you, on play or when digivolving, can delete one of your opponent's Digimon with 6,000 DP or less. It does have an overflow of -3, so that's unfortunate. You could run this card if you wanted to, but there are better Metal Greymons in my opinion to run, but do what you want to do, right? Some in red base can run this Metal Greymon, evolves for 4, or level 4 Greymon for the cost of 3. So any of your red Greymons, it can evolve up into this. It's an innate blocker, and it gives security attack +1. So OTK WarGreymon builds, or Black WarGreymon OTK, can utilize this Metal Greymon as well. But the only thing is, oftentimes, a lot of your OTK red pieces outside of Bt12 WarGreymon can't evolve from this Metal Greymon without the addition of this Metal Greymon from X Record Bt9. Metal Greymon X Antibody evolves for 0 from Metal Greymon, so it can evolve for 0 on top of any of these Metal Greymons here. When doing so, it gains security attack +1 for the turn, and it gains extra 3,000 DP until the end of your opponent's turn if you have the X Antibody or Metal Greymon in its evolution source. This is the textbook Metal Greymon you want to go with for the OTK builds that pairs right along and gives that extra 3,000 DP to your Bt12 WarGreymons or any level 6 Dragonkin WarGreymon that you utilize. And then you have Metal Greymon X Antibody from Bt11 that usually pairs well with the black base or red base Black WarGreymon. Evolves for 1 for Metal Greymon, and until the end of your opponent's turn, this Digimon can't have its DP reduced or be de-digivolved. And if it has Metal Greymon with X Antibody in its evolution sources, your opponent's Digimon that 6,000 DP or less get popped. And as the opponent's turn, once per turn, when a Digimon becomes unsuspended, if this stack is Omnimon or Greymon, you get to trash one of your opponent's security on that unsuspend. From the black base, you can branch up into your ultimates of Bt8 Metal Greymon, as mentioned, that has de-digivolve and popping a Digimon with 3,000 DP or less when you digivolve, and being able to give your Dragonkins the ability to attack your opponent's unsuspended Digimon. You can go into Metal Greymon from Bt12, as mentioned, that has Raid and being able to drop out your Tamers and giving your Greymons and Omnimons piercing. You have the security attack +1 Metal Greymon, that's a blocker, it can evolve from Greymon in name that's level 4 for the cost of 3. That's good for Black WarGreymon OTK builds. You have the Alter S EX4 Metal Greymon that's a blocker as well and gives a blocker as an inheritable. This one doesn't really see too much play, but it is an option that you can go into. And you do have the Bt11 Metal Greymon X, as mentioned, that protects from de-digivolution and DP reduction. And if you have Metal Greymon or X Antibody in its evolution sources, you can pop a 6,000 DP Digimon, and whenever it's inheritable, when your level 6 unsuspends or your opponent's Digimon unsuspends, if you have Greymon or Omnimon in its name, you can trash top card of your opponent's security stack. And you, of course, have the Metal Greymon Ace that you could also utilize in this build, but it doesn't really see too much play, but again, it is an option that you can for the black base. Branching up from your level 5 up into your Dragonkin level 6s, you do have your Mega, of course, Bt12 WarGreymon that evolves for 3 from level 5 with Metal Greymon in name. It has Raid, as mentioned, so when you attack your opponent's security, it can redirect your opponent's Digimon that's unsuspended with the highest DP. When digivolving, until the end of your opponent's turn, this Digimon gains 3,000 DP and gains Reboot. so it can restand itself back up. And all turns, once per turn, when an attack target is switched, you can unsuspend this Digimon, so whenever it raids, it can turn itself back up, pierce through, and OTK that way. Or if on your opponent's turn, it's given blocker by Bt12 tie, you can block once, attack target switch, and restand itself back up. This is the best WarGreymon in the game. You do have Bt1 WarGreymon for the OTK plays. When Digivolving, it gains security attack +1, so it checks one additional security, and that carries up into whatever it evolves into for the turn. And your turn, this Digimon does not activate security skills on option cards it checks, so it's a delicate plan on legs, textbook and OTK WarGreymon builds, and metas that have a lot of bombs and security. You have Bt14 WarGreymon that evolves from a level 5 with Greymon name for the cost of 4. If you have a Tamer in play, Tai Kamiya, and your opponent has 10,000 DP Digimon or more, your Agumon can warp Digivolve up into this WarGreymon Digimon Adventure style, into this WarGreymon, and then when Digivolving, it gains Raid, so it can attack your opponent's unsuspended Digimon, and it may attack, so that's Pseudo Blitz, meaning it can cross over and attack even if your memory is over. And when attacking, if you have a Tamer in play, this Digimon gains security attack +1 and piercing for the turn. You have WarGreymon X from Bt9, he evolves for 1 off of your WarGreymon. When paired with X antibody, it's perfect when attacking and crossing over. All turns, when a card is removed from your opponent's security stack, you gain 1 memory. And at the end of attack, once per turn, if WarGreymon or the X antibody option card is in its evolution sources, you get to delete one of your opponent's Digimon with DP less than or equal to this Digimon's DP. So it's going to be boosted up on average to, 15 to 20k, and you can delete usually any of your opponent's Digimon if they don't have protection. Red base, of course, you have black WarGreymon. It's good for deleting Tamers. When Digivolving, if it has a red Digivolution source in its evolution, you can pop your opponent's Digimon. If it has black, you can pop Tamers, and all of it has to add up to 6. So you can get rid of play cost, 3 cost Tamer, 3 cost Digimon at the same time, or 2 3 cost Tamers, depending on what your stack looks like. But more times than not, you're going to have red and black in your evolution source. That's just kind of how the Greymon archetype is. And all turns, once per turn, when an opponent's Digimon is deleted, you can unsuspend this Digimon. So with Bt8 Metal Greymon, when you swing at your opponent's Digimon that's unsuspended, you can restand them back up and swing into control that way. You have Black WarGreymon X Antibody from Bt11. It has Reboot. It evolves for 2 from Black WarGreymon. Opponent's turn, when an opponent's Digimon with the highest DP attacks, you may switch a target to this Digimon, so it redirects the attack as a pseudo blocker. Opponent's turn, once per turn, when a Digimon becomes unsuspended, if this Digimon has Black WarGreymon or X Antibody in its evolution source, you can delete one of your opponent's Digimon with the lowest play cost. So you pop the lowest play cost and make the highest attack it on your opponent's turn. And when paired with Bt11 Metal Greymon X, when it reboots itself, you trash your opponent's security. Also, you have Bt9 Gaiomon that evolves for 2 from Black WarGreymon as well. Its name is treated as Greymon, so it gains all the pluses of Greymon inheritables. It has security attack +1 and reboot. And when Digivolving, if you have Black Evolution in its evolution source, you can de-Digivolve one of your opponent's Digimon. And if you have red, it gains Blitz, so it can cross over memory and attack, and de-Digivolve one of your opponent's Digimon based on how the archetypes usually are for red and black Greymon. It is a powerhouse for aggro black strategies and red strategies. And then from tech-wise, you have Victory Greymon that evolves for 4 from a level 5. When Digivolving, you can delete one of your opponent's Digimon with 6,000 DP or less. For every Digimon your opponent has in play, add 2,000 to the maximum of this DP base level. So innately, if they have 1, you're actually popping 8,000. If they have 2, you're popping 10,000. If they have 3, you're popping 12. You get the idea. And all turns, when opponent's Digimon is deleted, if you have a Tamer, you can delete one of your opponent's Digimon with the highest DP, so you pop their small body. If you have a Tamer in play, you pop their big body. Victory Greymon all turns also works, so if they opponent's turn hits security and they die, you get to blow up something that's on their side of the field. For black base Greymon builds, you of course still have the Bt12 WarGreymon, as mentioned, as Raid, gains 3,000 DP and reboot until any opponent's turn. And when attack target switch, you can unsuspend this Digimon. Fantastic for red and black bases, especially as an aggro power tool there. You have Black WarGreymon, as mentioned, from Bt8 that pops play cost 6 altogether for red and black sources that in your evolution. And once per turn, when an opponent's Digimon is deleted, you can unsuspend this Digimon. So when paired with this Metal Greymon that gives that ability of attacking unsuspended, Bt8 Black WarGreymon is a beast. As mentioned, with the red build, you have Gaiomon and Black WarGreymon X that evolve for 2 from your Black WarGreymon. Or if you have the X antibody from your level 5, you can evolve up for the cost of 5 for both. Both have reboot. This one, as mentioned before, can switch attack targets that have the DP that are highest on your opponent's side into it. And if you have Black WarGreymon or the X antibody in your evolution source, you can pop your lowest opponent's Digimon on their side of the field. Gaiomon's good for aggro plays and de-digivolving and being able to blitz. You have the Gaiomon from EX4 that pairs along with this Gaiomon. That when it's also treated as having Greymon in name. When Digivolving, you can delete one of your opponent's Digimon with a play cost of 13 or more. If no Digimon was deleted, you trash the top card of their security stack, and at the end of turn, you can evolve into this Gaiomon as long as you have a Tamer in play without paying the cost. So then you can blitz, you pop, blow up, trash, and then evolve and check for 2 or more with this Greymon. You have Black WarGreymon from BT2. When attacking, you can attack your opponent's Digimon with the highest DP, and if you do, you unsuspend this Digimon. So with high DP boost and this Metal Greymon underneath, you can just keep clearing down on your opponent's board for as a control card. It sees some uses. You can definitely test it out for yourself. And you do have WarGreymon Ace that evolves. Technically, you can play this in the red build, but you can't evolve an Omnimon off of this WarGreymon, so it doesn't really see too much play. And its overflow of 4 is pretty sad. Blast Cat, when your opponent attacks, you can blast your level 5 into this WarGreymon. It's a blocker innately, and all turns, once per turn, and the cards are removed from your opponent's security stack, you may unsuspend this Digimon. So if you swing with him at security, you check, you unsuspend him and swing again. You just can't finish off the game Omnimon style with this WarGreymon unless you go up in the WarGreymon X, but then you're usually playing a red build, and you have better ways of OTK great WarGreymons than this particular one. From your red or black base, you could also expand up into your Omnimons. You have Blitz Omnimon for BT5, which means whenever you Digivolve, he has Blitz and he can unsuspend. So ideally, you OTK your opponent, swing through all their security, Digivolve into him, he unsuspends on your suspended WarGreymon or Black WarGreymon, whatever it is, and then you restand and Blitz with this for game, and has protection if it did survive that turn and you didn't OTK that turn. If your opponent's effect would bounce, send us to the bottom of the deck, or delete, you can trash a level 6 evolution source that's in its evolutions to prevent it from leaving play. You have Omnimon X from BT10. It evolves for 3 from Omnimon, but if you have the X antibody in its evolution source, you reduce the cost by 2, so it only costs 1. When Digivolving, you return all your opponent's Digimon with the highest level to the bottom of their owner's deck, so you can do a whole mass swarm to the bottom if they all have one single level on the field of any particular Digimon or level. You get the idea. When Digivolving and when attacking once per turn, by placing the X antibody or a level 6 Digimon from its evolution source to the bottom of your deck, you can reveal your opponent's security and trash 1 card. The ideal play is to put X antibody underneath this Omnimon, swing, and mid-swing evolve for 1 into this Omnimon to trash their last security and swing for game. So you can do that when attacking effect anytime you have a level 6 or X antibody that's in its evolution source. You have Bt5 Omnimon X that's also seen some play. When attacking, you can delete one of your opponent's Digimon with DP less than or equal to this Digimon's DP. And opponent's turn, when your opponent's Digimon attacks, you may trash 2 of its evolution sources to end the attack as a floodgate. And you do have Omnimon Alter S you could also play. It evolves from a red as well. It also DNA Digivolves if you go the Alter S route, but you don't really necessarily do that in Tribal, but it is a niche Omnimon you could play. When Digivolving, you delete one of your opponent's Digimon with 8,000 DP or less, and then return one of your opponent's level 6 or higher Digimon to the bottom of their owner's deck. In all turns, you don't have to worry too much about the whole Blitz Greymon Crest Garurumon play. You could potentially play Blitz Greymon in the Greymon archetype, but it really fits the Alter S build. But I just wanted to mention that as a niche Omnimon you could run. You could also run Merciful Mode, depending on your meta, if you want to return cards to your opponent's deck from their trash. But these 2 Omnimons are the main ones that see play in most Greymon Tribal builds. For your ideal Greymon Tribal Tamers, you have for the more red base aggro strategy, you have BT1 Tai. If you have 2 or less memory, he sets you at 3, and all your red Digimon with 4 more evolution sources gain security attack +1, so it's great for the OTK strategies of giving that extra security check on your stack. You have the starter deck Tai Kamiya that's a memory setter, that when attack targets switch by suspending them, you can draw 1 and give that Digimon extra 2,000 DP. It's good for Raid WarGreymon or black strategies that have Black WarGreymon X to give it extra 2,000 boost and get some draw power that way. You have Bt12 Tai, which is a staple in almost all Greymon Tribal type of decks. Start your main phase, and on play, it gives one of your Agumons or Greymons 1,000 DP and blocker until the end of your opponent's turn, so it pairs great with your Bt12 WarGreymon or anything that has reboot, like Greymon or Black WarGreymon X as a double blocker, essentially, for BT12 WarGreymon and for Black WarGreymon X from BT11. And your turn, when you evolve into a Greymon or Omnimon, you can suspend this Tai to gain 1 memory. And of course you have Yuya from BT11. It's a memory setter. When one of your Digimon evolves into a Greymon and name by suspending him, you can give it 2,000 DP until the end of your opponent's turn. And you evolved into a same level Digimon, it's unaffected by your opponent's option cards till the end of your opponent's turn. So it gives that ADP protection effect on your Digimon that's swinging the security. If it evolves into, say, like Metal Greymon and Metal Greymon X, you suspend the Yuya, gain at 2,000 DP and protection from options till the end of your opponent's turn. Most of the option cards you would run in a Greymon Tribal build. If you're going red base, of course, you have Gaia Force, which deletes one of your opponent's Digimon on security and on play. You have Hades Force, which is good for Tamer removal as long as you have a Greymon on the field. And if it has X antibody underneath, you reduce the cost by 2, so it costs 5. You play Hades Force, it deletes all your opponent's Tamers and Digimon up to the play cost of that Digimon that's a Greymon. So if you have Black WarGreymon X, it's 13 play cost. If you have Bt12 WarGreymon, it's 12. You get the idea. And in security, it deletes one of your opponent's Digimon with the highest play cost. You have Dark Gaia Force, which is a super badass card in my opinion nowadays because of all the aces and the overflow you get for the cost of 8. You choose any number of your opponent's Digimon whose play cost adds up to 15 or less and delete them. So you have much low aces that are usually tucked underneath things. So you usually gain back the memory that you would pay for the 8 of this. So it's kind of like a pseudo version of Hades Force, but for wide boards or for a problematic monster, because Hades Force, you need to have a Greymon on the field to play it. So if you have something raising, even if you have a red or black color, you can't drop this, but you can play this as long as you have red or black, which is easy to do in most Greymon tribal type of decks. And then security, you can delete one of your opponent's Digimon with a play cost of 15 or less. Trident Guy is another good one that for the 8 cost deletes one of your opponent's Digimon with the highest DP. If a Digimon with 13,000 DP was deleted by this effect, you trash the top card of your opponent's security stack. Crimson Blaze is definitely a necessity in the meta nowadays. In every red staple deck, it's definitely a great floodgate card that stops your opponent from playing cards by effects till the end of their turn, and it deletes all their 6,000 DP Digimon or more, which is good for wide boards because you need to build up usually for Greymon tribal type of decks. So the longer it takes for you to get your pieces, you need to get rid of the presence that's put on board. So Crimson Blaze is great for that. Trident Arm's a good one as well for the black archetype or the black build of Greymon. D-Digivolve 3, and then at the start of main phase, you make one of your opponent's Digimon have to attack. You declare it, so they can just block it and get rid of that on the field. Security to D-Digivolves 3. Then of course you have the offense trainings that cost 2. You reveal 2 cards. You can add any red card from the reveal to your hands. It could be your Tamers, your options, or your red Digimon, which most of your, if you're playing red Greymon, all of it's going to be red based. And then you can add it to your hand, and then on delay you can pop this to reduce one of your red evolutions by 2. So your WarGreymon that would cost 3 would only cost 1. Metal Greymon that would cost 3 would only cost 1. If it costs 4, it would cost 2. You get the idea. Red Memory Boost, you reveal this, you reveal 4 cards, you can add 1 red Digimon from the reveal and put the rest to the bottom of your deck. And delay, you pop this to gain 2 memory. Memory is very important, and Greymon, you need it for everything, honestly, especially to stay on turn, so Red Memory Boost is definitely a good card. A Delicate Plan, which is BT1 WarGreymon, essentially as an option card. It costs 1, one of your Digimon gains, it doesn't activate security options for the turn when it hits it, so it's just basically it just shuts off your opponent's options. X Antibody is good for your X Antibody evolutions and for attacking mid, swing with your Digimon, activate X Antibody and evolve into an X Antibody Digimon, even though you cross turn. If you hit in security, you gain a memory, and this can't be stripped, so it's good against blue decks, so they can't strip this as a bottom evolution source. It's very textbook, and you need it for Greymon X from Bt11 to protect yourself, and from Agumon X from Bt11. And you have Dragon of Courage, which can warp your Digimon up into a WarGreymon or Agumon as long as you have tie on the field by placing a Greymon, a Metal Greymon from your trash underneath the Agumon and get it up into a WarGreymon. For those curious, this is my OTK Red WarGreymon list. I do run the 4 copies of the Bt9 Coremon to give your Agumons and Greymons at 1,000, which is good because you're just building up and back, and when you push out, you need to have all the pieces you need. This build doesn't run X Antibody. I run 3 copies of the Agumon for Bt14. You don't want to use them, obviously, outside of raising, so you prioritize these Agumons, and if you get more than him once in a game, you're building up and stack, so it's kind of just a dead card unless you just hard play it and evolve into an Agu X on top to get a draw and a search. Outside of that, like once you kind of get this one Agumon, then you're usually set, and you really don't want to see it anymore after that because you're just going to use that in raising and push out for your OTK later. This is for your searching, of course, getting your ties and your Greymons and Omnimons. This is for searching as well, getting your Greymons or Omnimons. It's OTK, so you run 4 copies of Security Type Greymon. I run the 3 copies of Greymon X for protection to evolve on top of the Greymon. The limited 1 copy Greymon X to evolve on top of Greymon and reduce evolution cost. You don't worry about the inheritable because you're just wanting it for that cheap Evo. 1 Greymon for Bt5 for that cheap evolution. You really want to prioritize this Greymon, but this is a comeback card. You really don't want to run it more. You just want to have the Greymon loaded up with protection or reduce its evolution cost, and then have this as like a backup for a cheap evolution if you need to get some draw and DP boost. 4 copies of Metal Greymon from Bt12 for the piercing and for raiding drop out Tamers for free. 3 copies of Metal Greymon X for the extra security check and 3000 boost till the end of your opponent's turn, 1 Alterous for protection and for popping a 5000 DP Digimon, the boss monster WarGreymon from Bt12 for raiding and to unsuspend whenever you raid their unsuspended Digimon, usually checking for 3 each swing to OTK, and then if you don't, then he just becomes a powerhouse blocker with Bt12 WarGreymon, and Bt12 tie. 2 copies of Bt1 WarGreymon for the extra security check when digivolving that carries over, but also so you don't activate security skills with things like Beostarmon and Leviamon and things that just pop off in security, that just, even Terriermon with some of their options. You just want to have this WarGreymon security control. You get the idea. He gains security attack and you just say no to security options activating. And 1 copy of Bt14 WarGreymon for the piercing and security attack +1 when you have a Tamer on field, and it can raid when digivolving and cross over, so that gives you blitz, and you can warp up your Agumon at last minute emergency. If they have a 10,000 DP Digimon, you have a tie on the field. So these WarGreymons are what I usually go to for a pure WarGreymon OTK build. You have Omnimon to end game, of course, for searching, getting your pieces. Everything's so fast-paced, so you want to get your offense trainings out there so you can find your pieces and then delay your evolution. As long as you have 3 memory and you have these, you can evolve literally from a champion to an ultimate to a mega with offense training with 3 memory, so it's nasty. Dark Gaia Force to get rid of aces and for a problematic monster that's on the field, even if you don't have a Digimon or a Greymon on the field, thus the exclusion of Hades Force, but Hades Force would be good for Tamers. You can always run that too. Take out offense training for Hades Force. Crimson Blaze for the wide boards. It's needed, as mentioned, in all metas now to get rid of your opponent's wide boards and to stop them from playing Digimon by effects. Memory setters of 2 Taikamiya for the security attack +1 on your red Digimon, setting you at 3, and the Yuya for protection from options in case you don't get into your Bt1 WarGreymon and save you from their nasty effects and it's on their turn. And the 3 ties from Bt12, which give you the blocker and 1000 DP till the end of your opponent's turn, and suspension to gain a memory when you evolve into a Greymon or an Omnimon. For Greymon Toolbox, I run 4 copies of Bt5 Coremon for the draw. You run X antibodies, so you do want to draw into those pieces mid-attack, so you can get value off of that. As mentioned in the OTK WarGreymon, I run the 3 copies of Agumon for the same reason. You don't want to see him too much, but you need him for your raising area, ideally, and getting that free evolution to a Greymon. Your searchers of these Agumons here, getting reveals, get your ties to hand, and getting your X antibodies from this in particular, and your Greymons or Omnimons. 3 copies of Bt5 Greymon. You want the extra DP because it's got mid-range type of deck, and you're not completely OTKing. You have the potential to, but it's more mid-range, so you don't have that DP, and for the cheap evolution, it's amazing. But you have the Security Greymon that gives you extra security attack +1. If you want to go security OTK route, you have the option to. You have 3 copies of Greymon X for protection. You have 1 copy of the limited Greymon X for cheap evolution and the protection from X with the X antibody. 3 copies of Bt12 Metal Greymon for the raid and to drop out your Tamers. And for piercing, 2 copies of Metal Greymon X for security attack +1 and extra 3000 DP. Good for OTK strats and for boosting up your Bt12 WarGreymon or Black WarGreymon X. 2 copies of Metal Greymon X from Bt11 for the protection from D-Digivolve and from DP reducing effects and the pop 6000 DP and to trigger a lot of your rebooted level 6s to trash their security. 1 copy of Alterous Mode for protection, it's understandably so. 3 copies of Bt12 WarGreymon. He still has mentioned the best WarGreymon in the deck, so he has Raid, when Digivolve he gains 3000 DP, and Reboot for the turn, and then on a tight target switch he can unsuspend, so he can be a double blocker or a double swinger, so he's just nasty. 2 copies of Black WarGreymon X, evolves for 2 from Black WarGreymon, has Reboot, and he redirects attacks and pops things. He's just, obviously a great control card. 1 copy of Black WarGreymon for Tamers, and to just be able to facilitate going into Black WarGreymon for cheap, Greymon X for cheap. It just makes sense. That's just the lineup of level 6 I feel like for Toolbox. You have more variety of what you want to do, especially if you're playing more mid-range type of playstyle. 1 copy of Bt5 Omnimon, you blitz for game. You're not going full OTK, but he's there as a potential. You have Omnimon X, so you can clear their level high boards, and then you can trash their security, and you can, of course, with the 2 X antibodies being played as well, you can utilize that OTK combo of attaching it to Omnimon and swinging. So 2 X antibody option cards for the X antibody Digimon, 2 offense trainings for searching and for reducing evolution cost, 2 Dark Gaia Force for wide removal, 15 play costs and all, 1 Hades Force for Tamers, specifically Red Hybrid, and 2 copies Crimson Blaze, as mentioned, for wide boards and for clearing 6000 DP, and for stopping your opponent from playing things by effects. 2 member setters of Taikamiya for the security attack +1 on your red Digimon, and for Yuya for protection, since it is somewhat control and mid-range, and 3 copies of Taikamiya for Bt12 for blocker 1000 on your turn that ends to your opponent's turn, and for gaining a memory when you evolve into a Greymon or Omnimon. So this is the red-black Greymon toolbox build. For black base Greymon tribal, I do run the starter deck Koromons. For black base, I run the 4 copies of the Best Searcher Agumon to evolve off of that Koromon, 2 of the Bt8 Agumon to search for your Dragonkins and Greymons, 2 of the starter deck Agumons for the attack target switch, gaining memory and gaining memory, just from that alone having a Digimon on your opponent's side of the field, 4 Agumon X for evolving for free and getting your Tamers and your X antibody option or Greymon revealed. 1 copy of Greymon X from Bt9. It's red, so it's difficult, but having it as that one little protection that you can get into is nice. 3 starter deck Greymon for the blocker and for gaining a memory when attack target switch. There's a lot of redirecting in this deck. 3 copies of Bt12 Greymon for getting your ties out on the field, and for the evolution having extra DP. 2 of the Bt8 Greymon to give extra thing for blocker if you don't have Bt12 tie. 1, of course, limited Greymon X for the cheap evolution and for the X antibody protection. 1 Bt12 Metal Greymon for raid and for piercing, but it's a control deck, so I do run 3 copies of Bt8 Metal Greymon for Digivolve, popping a 3k Digimon, and to being able to attack your opponent's unsuspended Digimon went to level 6. For control, 1 copy of Metal Greymon X to evolve on top of your Metal Greymons here, just in case you want to get a little bit of aggro cheek and add 3000 DP on that Digimon. 3 copies of Bt11 Metal Greymon X for the Digivolve and DP reduction protection and for the rebooting, trashing opponent security for more control power. 2 copies of Bt8 Black WarGreymon for control, of course, and popping Tamers. 2 copies of Black WarGreymon X for, again, more control, rebooting with the Bt11 Metal Greymon underneath, the trash security and redirect attacks. It's nasty, popping Digimon. 2 Bt12 WarGreymon for just that added swing into security, into opponent's Digimon, redirect, unsuspend, and check again, and just kind of be more of an OTK kind of card here, but also a control card nonetheless, and being a powerhouse blocker when you need it to be. And also when it reboots, you can use the Bt11 Metal Greymon to trash security. 1 Gaiomon for extra security, check if you need, Digivolve, and for blitzing. 1 Omnimon X is not OTK, so you only run 1 of these Omnimons. You don't want to run the Bt5. This is my personal preference. I go heavy on X antibody, run 3 copies because your protection lies in your Agumon X and your Greymon X needing it underneath its evolution stack, so you want to see it, and you need it for your Black WarGreymon X play and your Metal Greymon X. 2 Hades Force for popping Tamers, of course. 2 DG Dimension for when boards go wide. You can't use Crimson Blaze in this, so DG Dimension does Digivolve 1 on 3 of your opponent's Digimon and pops all their Digimon with play cost 6 or less, so that's pretty nice if they go wide. 2 star deck ties that give you a redirect extra 2000 DP whenever attack target's switched. It's a memory setter, and you draw 1 whenever you do that. You could also swap 1 out for a Yuya, so tie and Yuya if you would like, but I like having these 2 ties in particular because you can search it with the Agumons. And 3 copies of Bt12 tie, which give you blocker and 1000 DP on your whenever you give it start your main phase and on your opponent's turn for the moment you declare it, and to give you extra memory when evolving into a Greymon or Omnimon.